Hello, welcome to the ninth module of the Catfish farming course by Agrodemy. In this ninth module, we'll be addressing financial planning and record keeping. By the end of this video, you would have understood how to create a budget and manage a cash flow for a catfish farm. You'd also understand how to maintain records and documentation for a catfish farm. More importantly, you'll be learning how to calculate farm profitability, break-even point, and profit margin for your catfish farm business. Before we get there, what's the importance of budgeting? Budgeting helps you to define both long and short-term operational goals, and it helps you to track your income and expenses. Budgeting helps you reduce the financial risk by predicting what your cash needs are, which means with budgeting you're able to know how much you need for every month until the point where you sell your catfish. It also helps you to guide your decision making process so you will know at what point should you expand, at what point should you start looking for external investment. As a tip, I always advise update your budget as cost and farm needs evolve. So if your farm begins to need new things, please seek out an updated budget with the need of your farm. There are key components of a catfish budget. The first is the initial setup cost, the next is the operational expenses, and lastly is the revenue forecasting. So for the initial setup cost, you want to put in the cost for your pond production setup and your equipment, the nets, the tanks, the thermometers, all of them you have to have that in the list. I expect that by now, by going through all of the videos in this catfish farming course, you have a list of all of the machines you need. Secondly, thirdly, the cost of your fingerlings and the initial feed you need. Then on operating cost, you want to look at the cost of the feed, so which is every month feed cost, because this is reoccurring in the month of harvest. What's your labor cost, the cost for the person who is feeding, the cost of the person who is monitoring your farm, the cost of the person who is maintaining it. You also want to put the cost of your vet doctor, and then there's a cost for utility. What's your cost for water if you buy water, cost of electricity, and lastly medication and disease prevention cost. So what's the cost you're spending on buying the medications for your catfish farm? Then the last thing you want to do is revenue forecast. So how much do you expect to make based on yield? So based on how many fish is dying, how many fish do you eventually hope to have at the end of the month, how much do you intend to sell the fish, and how much would you make by selling the fish at a particular price based on the weight you are feeding them to attain. As a tip, always include an emergency fund because there's always going to be an unexpected cost. Not all the time, especially during disease outbreak or major equipment repair. The next thing you need to understand is cash flow. So what is cash flow? Cash flow is the movement of money in and out of your business. So positive cash flow means that more money is coming in than the money that is going out. While negative cash flow means that you are spending more money than the money you are making. So you need to avoid this by careful planning. And there's seasonal variation. So because a time when you are rearing the fish and the point of harvest and sales are usually different. You may have seasonal fluctuation depending on your harvest cycle. Usually the advice is that when you start your farm, you understand your first cycle and your second cycle. You begin to set up your farm in a way that every month you have fish for harvest. That way you can always increase your cash flow and ensure that every month of the year there's fish for harvest. I always advise that you monitor your cash flow monthly and avoid anything that has to do with you have fish but you don't have money to maintain your fish or maintain your farm or to pay salary. To achieve this, you need record keeping, and that's where the importance of record keeping is. Why should you keep record? To track all your farm activities, your productivity, your efficiency, to monitor your performance, to improve on your operation. When do you feed? When did you change feed? When did you change water? All these things are records that you should keep, and including your financial record, the day you made payment for what and what you made payment for, and having the receipt to prove that this money went out to a customer and not into a personal pocket. It's also important for you to do record keeping so that you can be able to file for tax with ease, especially situations where you have to file for tax. As I know that most agri business have tax exemption for maybe the first 3 years or the first 5 years of existence. Keeping record also help you to make your financial decision, because if you notice that you have a lot of demand, especially if you also keep record of demand, you have a lot of demand in February, this year. It means that towards the end of the year, you start planning to start farming so that by February you have enough fish to meet the demand that you had for February this year. So towards the end of the year, you begin to plan for the next year. That's why it is always good to keep record. I always advise that as a habit, keep daily record of everything so that you can avoid every missing data. So what are essential records you need to keep on your catfish farm? Your feed record. What's the quantity of feed? What's the name of the feed? What's the cost of the feed? Where did you purchase it from? Right? And which day was it used? Now your water quality log. So you, because you also need to be checking your water, the quality of your water every week. Most times they even say two, every 2 days you check your water quality, especially if you have the test kit within the farm. Have all of all this recorded so that you can be able to track the day that your water level drops and know if it's the effect of the water, the fish, or is the feed that you added to the fish. You also want to keep health record. Which day did the disease happen? What was the treatment administered? What was the cost of the medication? How many fish was infected? These are also health data you need to keep. You also need to keep sales data. So how many fish was sold? What was the price per unit? What was the name of the buyer? The contact of the buyer? You know, and also the demography of the buyer. Is the buyer a household, is it a restaurant, or is it a wholesaler or retailer? As a tip, I always say that you set up record keeping templates so that it will make your data collection very, very easy. I always suggest that you take the Agro Digital Officer Academy program by Agrodemy to learn how to use technology to keep all of the records for your agri business. So there are also recording tools and techniques you can use. The spreadsheet, which is online, you can keep on your phone. You can have mobile app. You can even have books, which are physical books, so that you can keep the ledger, and then you can have somebody who comes to collect this book every week to help you put it online, especially if you are someone that is not comfortable with using the online space. Then lastly is that there are things called digital sensor. All those ones automatically, once you just put it in the water, it records it and put it in and update it in your file. As you now grow bigger, you can begin to aspire to have all of these things in your farm. As a tip, choose tools based on your farm size. If you are a small farm, start with physical log and then have somebody who picks it into your spreadsheet. If you are very comfortable with technology and the internet, you can automatically start with spreadsheet and then mobile app. Then if you're a very big farm, I always advise that you use the automated model based on your comfort as a farmer. Another thing you need to evaluate is the profitability of your farm. You do not run a fish farming business for pleasure. You run a fish farming business to make money. So it means that you need to check your revenue. And what is revenue? The total sales from all the catfish sold within a period. And you have to know what is your profit, you need to minus the expenses from the revenue. How much did it cost you to raise this fish? From feeding, then the labor, the utilities, the salaries, the water, all of that minus it, then you know what your profit is. I always advise that you track your profitability on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, and even on an annual basis, so you understand the standing of your business. You could be selling a lot of fish but you're not making profit, but that one person that is not selling fish all the time makes more profit than you that is always selling fish. You want to track that by ensuring that you calculate all the cost of your expenses and then all the cost of your how much you made from selling all of your fish, so you know how much is actually your profit with the business. Now, beyond making profit, right? When you make profit, the profit you made does not exactly mean that your business is profitable, because there are other costs that you had incurred at the beginning of the business. So the point where the money you are making covers for all of these other costs and everything within your business and gives you money that you can use to expand, you call that your break even point, right? At break even, they say that all your total revenue equals the total cost. So no profit, no loss. And from that point, you say that you are broken even. And so any sales that can now happen after then is now pure profit. The formula is what is your break even point is equals to what is your cost price divided by your selling price minus your variable cost. This is a lot of mathematics. I always advise that you have a finance person on your team to help you do that, or hire somebody from Agrodemy Digital Officer Professional Academy, someone who has graduated from that program. You can even put it as your criteria for employment. Hire somebody who knows how to do this thing. Just to give an example calculation, for example, if your cost overall is 500,000 and you sold your fish for 1,000 naira, right? But the cost of setting up the fish is 600. It means that if you minus 600 from 1,000, you have 400. And if you divide it by 500, it means that your break even point is 1,250 units. It means the day you sell 1,250 units of catfish, you have covered all of your costs for your farm setup. Now you then begin to determine what your profit margin would be. Do you want your profit margin to be 10x, 20x? And the idea for you to put percentages so that you can know what is your actual profit. I always say that if you give yourself a high profit margin, you give yourself a room for growth. If you give yourself a low profit margin, you begin to chase cash flow and then later, growth. I always advise that keep yourself on a high profit margin so that at the end of the day, even when you give discount, you are still profitable to sustain your business. Now, a sample of a profitability calculation is, for example, you sold your fish, all the fish you sold was 2 million naira. Then, but by the time you calculate the cost of the medicine, the feed, the fingerlings, the water, and everything, it was 1.4 million. It means that your profit was actually 600,000. Now, if your profit is 600,000, how much percent of that? It means that what you made is actually 30% profit, and 30% profit margin is a good margin to start. It's always good to keep your profit margin minimum at 20%. And you can keep your maximum at whatever you like. And there are various tips that you need to manage your finance. So you want to optimize your feed usage, check the cost of your feed, make sure you are using it efficiently, prevent any form of disease and mortality rate so you don't have so many of your fish dying after feeding them. Diversify your sales channel, sell to different customer reach, look for new market for your catfish. Again, always look at your financials every month so that it will help you to know when there's a problem early and you can begin to address it. I always used to advise that you have a financial goal, either quarterly and annually, and you can track it so that you can stay focused and proactive. As a summary of this course, I need you to understand that budgeting is very important for your catfish business. Cash flow management is so critical so that you don't have fish that you don't have money to feed. Financial planning is also very, very critical because it helps you know where you are headed in the business, and you need to keep records to be able to achieve all of this. And the essential records you should keep, which we addressed in this video. Lastly, we cover the method for you to calculate profitability, break even point, and profit margin. As an activity, I want you to know in the comment section, do you have any form of tech skills that can help you be an amazing record keeper for your agri business? Secondly, also let us know in the comment section if you would love to learn digital skills for your agri business development. Thank you very much, and we've come to the end of this video and course.